and welcome to Drivenmad. Now in today's video, you join us back on Bosco, our 2010 L200, and we're going to be fitting a double-din stereo in it today. Now this is a little bit more complicated than any other stereo I've done because we have to relocate the trip computer in the truck. Now at the moment it's sitting at the bottom with the stereo and sitting at the top with the trip computer. We want the stereo at the top with this new fascia and surround you can see. And then we need to relocate the little trip computer down where the stereo is at the moment. So we're going to give them a little swap over, and it's quite complex. So I'll go through what I've got. We've got doubled-in stereo. We're putting in this nice Pioneer system. We're also going to be hooking up a reversing camera to it, so I can explain that a little bit later on. Then of course we've got the fascia kit. We got this with connects to different harnesses. You can see they do little kits available for it. So we got the harness, the fascia. We also got this little part that goes with it. So this basically allows the steering wheel buttons and things to be transferred over to the new stereo. So we don't want to lose that feature because the steering wheel buttons are quite handy. So we'll move inside and start stripping it apart. Of course, first we've got to disconnect the battery so none of this is live when I'm touching it. Don't want to get a little zap here and there. So we'll take the battery off and move inside. Let's take off the ground for the battery, size 10. Alright, so moving on in, you can see we've got the trip computer up the top and we've got the stereo down the bottom. Now this stereo is pants, doesn't have Bluetooth, doesn't have anything, so it really needs upgrading. And of course, to get this out, we're going to need a set of tools, so I'll show you those in a second, but we need to focus on removing this, getting this housing off the top so we can see all the internals and we can unbolt it all. So we'll start by removing this stereo down here. Right, so these are the tools to remove the stereo. They're generic. I got these on Amazon. You can just type in universal stereo removal tool and they'll come up. So you just push them in like so on each side. Now you just grab them like that and you pull in a bit and pull backwards and it should release the stereo. So being careful not to damage the gear stick or anything. You can see that is covered in dust. Right, now on the back you can see the the antenna just came out, but we've got a little pinch connector there, so we can pinch and pull him out like so. Another one here with another little pinch connector, pull that out, and then we've just got this one on the end, which is just a brute force, which is just a little pinch there you can see on there. So that's the original stereo out. Look at the state of that. Disgusting, covered in dust. Right, so down behind the dash you can see we've got plenty of space. It's absolutely disgusting, but we've got plenty of space, and we'll now focus on trying to get this top fascia off. We're just going to keep. There we go. Bent both of my nails back nicely there, but there's the fascia off and you can see all that dust in the dashboard. But you can see now we've got access to the Phillips screws to take the trip computer out. Right, now we've unveiled both sections, we can focus on getting this out because we're going to have to do a bit of dismantling of the actual trip computer before we can relocate it to our new fascia, which is going to replace this piece of plastic right here. So we'll start by removing the 4 Phillips screws up here and get this bugger out. Right. Don't lose your Phillips screws. Now this should, with any luck, just come out. Oh my god, that's so dusty. I get the feeling the previous owner did a bit of dirt driving with the windows down. And that just pulls out there with a little pinch. And that is our trip computer out. So that's the hole we're working with. There's plenty of space for a double din, as you can see. So we'll get that all cleaned up, and then we'll focus on getting this black piece of trim out. Mine will be a bit more confusing because I've got the heated seat buttons on there as well, but I'm hoping that's just a pull as well. Right, now we're going to try and get this central piece of trim out. So what we've got is we're going to remove this entire piece with the black inside. So what we've got is all plastic clips to pull forwards, but I believe there's one Phillips there which we have to take out. Now we might have to take out this whole panel here to then allow the other piece to come forwards without colliding with this panel. But we'll undo that, we'll have a go and see if we can get it out without removing this panel, because I don't really fancy having to unplug everything. So let's try. Okay, so I've undone the 2 Phillips screws underneath this piece of trim here, I'm just hoping to get enough wiggle room up here. As they attach just with a pull. I'm hoping, there we go, we've got that down now, so we should have enough wiggle room to pull this piece of trim out completely without having to remove the rest of this. So what I'm going to do is just pull. There we go, that's positive. So, okay, we can just pull. So the glove box doesn't need to come out for this. Just dropping it down helps get a bit of leeway on it. So we'll make sure all these cables are not getting snagged on there. Now, the other thing we have is all the connections in the back for the heated seats on both sides and the cigarette lighter. Right, now you can see I've unplugged all these plugs. Now we've got this little box here, which I'll try and balance the torch. There we are. This little box here, which I've just pinched and pushed through forwards, but I need to get it out because it needs to that needs to come through because I need it out. There we go, like that. So this fascia should now be free, which it is. You can see there are all the plugs behind for the heated seats, the rear window switch. I'm getting dirtier doing this job than I would do crawling underneath it. Right, now with our trip computer here, you can see it's quite a bulky bit of kit, and our fascia that it's got to fit in is quite small, so there's no way that that's going to go in there, as you can see. So what we need to do is strip this down to just the circuit board itself and keep the perspex glass here. I'm going to remove this fascia bit here first, and we'll have a little look under what's that. So these are just some plastic little clips. I won't be reusing this fascia, so okay, here we go. Fascia's off. They're not necessary to remove this. So this piece at the top, I think it's called the compass module. I'm not entirely sure what it is, what it does, but I think it's to do with, it tells you the orientation on the screen. So we'll try and remove that now. They're slightly smaller Phillips, which are just two at the back, which take this top off. So we'll try and get them off. So that just lifts off the top there, like that. So I'm being nice and delicate with that because we've got a plug that goes into the top of the circuit board here. So what we'll do is, I think I'll remove the circuit board and then unplug that because I haven't really got very good access. So let's get these four undone. Okay, two more screws I've missed here on the back. So we'll get these two undone as well. There we go. That's that out. Now, this fascia piece here that was on the car, we should be able to just take off the plastic screen from in there. This has a plastic clip around the top, so you can't just pull the plastic out. You've got to undo these little clips. Now, there's, yet again, just a small selection. Don't know if you'll be able to see that properly. Let me see. There's a little clip there of plastic, little clip there, so just pry the tabs. So if I, hopefully you can see that there, if I put the flat head in and sort of bend that little bit of plastic and pull up, we're one step closer. Do the same on this end. Try and do it all. So that just pulls out of there like so. There we go. Keep that to the side. That is really brittle, so shouldn't be needing that again, so we'll put that to the side. I'm going to just unplug this like so, and we're going to take it off this metal housing here because we don't want this on our new piece. So there's just plastic little clips that you can push in with your fingers to get that out. And there we go. Being careful with the wiring because we will need this still. It's not like this is going in the bin. That's nice and clean. Now I'll do the same on here, just very gently, because I don't have a clue what this is made of. Right, so now it's new button time. We've got to disconnect our buttons from this little plastic piece here. Now if there's any rough edges on there, you could just take them off with a little bit of sandpaper, but I think for the time being I should be okay. So they come in the order they should be put in, I think. No, they don't. I thought they were in the right orientation, but they're not. It's fairly straightforward. You can see, look, the buttons push through from behind, and we've got two small ones on the ends, and then the rest are the same size. So the small ones just go through like that. 1, 2, 3. That feels very tight. 4, 5, 6. All right, so the buttons are in, you can see there. Now, I saw a little tip online. I can't remember who I saw it from. I can't remember your name, I do apologise. But apparently, if you cut a piece of foam like this came with one part of my kit. It wasn't part with the fascia kit, but it came with part of the stereo. If I cut that, a thin piece, and line it across the buttons, apparently it stops them from rattling. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put that in now. I will line that across the buttons. Then I will lay our new piece, well not new, but our piece of perspex in there. And now it's a matter of putting this circuit board back in. Getting it in line without budging the foam. Right. I'm back. Now, for you it's been no time, but for me it's been about 20 minutes. I've sat with this really thin, really fine sandpaper, and I've just gone over every single button, obviously not at the front of the buttons, not this part because you don't want to see it, but I've gone around all the other surfaces of the buttons with this sandpaper because they were sticking. The buttons weren't sitting freely in there and they were getting stuck every time you pushed them. So I've sat and sanded each button down, just a little bit, not much, just on each corner of each button. But now you can see, look, they all push and click nicely. And also we need to attach the compass afterwards. So we unclipped it here from the circuit board earlier, but I'm going to now unclip it from the actual compass module itself. I'm going to pull this out, being nice and gentle with it. Right, so there's the old fascia, and now we're going to prep up our new piece with clips. We've got 4 little spring clips, and I'm not entirely sure which way they go. They must go that way to pop on, I would say. So let's put these on. So these retaining clips are supposed to sit on these 4 pieces of plastic here, but they don't grip at all. They don't seem to do anything, so I'm slightly pinching them to make them a little bit smaller and then putting them on, and they grip in much better. Now I'm not sure how important these are, but they're not going to be doing masses because they're just held on sort of with friction, which seems a bit weird, but anyway, just slightly pinching them shut, which is making them sit on there much tighter. Pinch them a bit once they're on. They're now nicely on. So, what we'll do, get the other fascia here, and now this one's going to go through here like so, like that, in there, and I take it these retaining clips are going to do the business. Okay, we've got a little problem with our fascia here, which I sort of knew about. We've got a don't know how well you'll be able to see that on camera. Let me take you off there. You can see the clips aren't all the way in. The fascia's not pushed all the way in, but you see there's that little thing that's hitting the old fascia there. So we're going to have to drill a little bit of the old fascia out so that little knobbly bit of circuit board can push through, so we can get it all the way on. So you see I've marked it with a tiny little line, scratched a little line in there, and we'll just drill that out with a little drill bit now. I've just changed the top. I spilled curry all down myself over lunch, but I'm back, and you can see on the original fascia there I've actually dremeled a little hole down there. Now I lined it up by putting this in place, and the reason I've drilled the hole is because that little, I don't know what it is, but I'm going to call it a relay, no idea what it is, this little bump here, that was hitting the old fascia, so I had to Dremel out a hole to clear that piece there. So hopefully now it all goes in, slots and clips in into place. So we'll start by putting it through, and then just keep an eye out on that cable at the top, make sure it doesn't get snagged, and hopefully he just clips in. Right, let's get him in. Untangle that a little bit, and now we can live in hope that this fascia will clip flat. So, I'll try and explain what we did there. So, we took off these clips because they were getting in the way of this plastic cover going on. And then when we put the plastic cover on, the plastic pieces that these clips were on, the 4 poles, I had to push in with these to get them to go inside this casing. And then it was a matter of just holding the front and this and clamping it together, and it clicked. And now it seems pretty substantial. I'm happy with that. So we've got access to the plug, and we've got our compass cable, which is here. So now we have to plug this back in, and then we're going to have to double-sided tape or something this here to keep it out of the way.
We call it booger glue.
Because it sticks like boogers.
Well, you can roll it, can't you, into
Yeah.
that. But God, it's sticky.
Yeah, so just when putting this on, just being careful not to cover up the plug, because we still need access to that.
That won't interfere with anything, I take it.
I'm hoping not. It shouldn't do. So that's on there. I can always peel that off, hopefully. But that should now not vibrate at least and stay on. So with that in place, we can go and give it a little test fit and see what we think, and check for clearance issues.
Now it always happens in a video at least once, the camera overheats and dies. These GoPros, they are absolutely pans. But anyway, you can see I've got it back in, and I'm just doing up that last bit of trim, and it went together exactly as I took it apart, no problems at all. The hardest bit was of course the bit I did on the bench, the part I showed you. Now it's all in, looking snazzy and working great. Let's move on to the stereo.
Right, so you join me back. It's been a couple of weeks now, and I'll explain why. We bought the Connect 2 harness for the L200, but we got a 2012 kit and our truck's a 2010, so we've had to reorder another one. That may have been order error, we're not entirely sure yet, but Dad's bought this new kit because it's his truck, so whilst I was away, he's bought In-Car Tech. This is a kit you got this from England, didn't you, bud?
I did.
From England.
It wasn't my mistake, they sent me the wrong kit.
They sent the wrong kit.
Haven't got one.
There we go, they didn't have the one we needed, so they sent the 2012 and it didn't fit. So Connect 2 harnesses I used for my bath and it was really good, but for this we haven't got the right bit. So we've got In-Car Tech harness. Now this harness actually came, you can see here, with 1, the correct plugs, and 2, it's still got the CAN bus, so the steering wheel buttons and the reversing camera stuff should be able to work. This lead connects from the harness that it came with to the stereo, so that's the steering wheel buttons. I'm not sure our steering wheel buttons are going to work because they never have worked since we bought the truck, so I'll have a little fiddle around, see if I can get them to work. And of course that goes from the car's harness straight to the Pioneer harness, which is just a generic aftermarket plug. So we've got to fit the stereo in the car with the new fascia. You see that is the new fascia there. It's a much steeper angle, much bigger, and it's the double DIN. And here is the screen. So I've had a little fiddle, and it came with these 2 brackets which bolt to the car, but none of the screws go in properly at the right angle, and I can't get it to match this angle. So I'm going to have to do something a little bit custom, I suppose is the word. I'm going to have to try and figure out a way to get that to fit in there nicely, because I can't get the cage in because the cage is much bigger than the fascia, and it's going to have to be bolted to the car. So you can see there that that is a really tight fit. So I've got to figure out what angle that is and how to get it at the correct angle. So it's going to be trial and error of getting these brackets in the right place, and then once I've got them in the right place, I have to figure out how to mount them because none of the holes line up on the brackets. Glue is a last resort, I think, but let's go in and have a look. Right, so I do apologise if you see any sweat marks today, because it is nearly 40 degrees inside the garage today. So at the moment I've put in just one screw on the bracket so I can adjust the angle and get it roughly where I need it to be. I've tightened them up so they are tight-ish, but if I pull it I can move it. I've drawn a line to try and gauge roughly where I think that's going to have to go, because you can see there that the brackets fit really nicely. Okay, so I've got that fairly close look, and you can see there that we've got a gap at the top. The screen is slightly too leant back, and obviously the fascia is not fully pushed in, but that should go in if I just bring the angle up ever so slightly. So I'll take that back off, slightly angle that like so. Just trial and error this. Still isn't quite there. A tad more. A tad. So at the top there, you can see that's the angle I need it to be at, and I need that probably the stereo just to be level with that. So I need to bring it up about 5mm, which is not going to be easy. So I think I'm going to slightly oval the screw holes so then I can adjust it, move it and tighten it and adjust it. So let's do that. Cheers, Badge. Well, we have just done a little test fit off camera just to check that it lines up well, and the adjustment was perfect, so that was lucky. Nothing normally. No, I thought I was going to go back and do it 100 times, but I haven't. So before any of this moves, I'm going to now draw around the brackets. Here, I'm going to draw all the way around them so we know where to re-glue them.
We're too frightened to drill it, aren't we?
We are.
That one misses. Look how close that is.
I know. There's lots of holes, but none, the little holes you can't screw into because they just turn forever. And the other ones, there's none that line up properly. So it is irritating, but you can always do something about it. So I'm going to draw around that, just so we know exactly where to put it when we glue.
Because we're going to glue it.
We are. We're going to put the one bolt in and glue the rest, because it's pretty. If I cranked on that one bolt, it wouldn't. I don't think it would move. So the glue is just extra, and I think we'll be all right. There we go. So we can now take them off and glue it up. And what glue are we going to use? Araldite, aren't we?
I think so.
We're going to go big boy.
We'll give it a little bit of sanding.
Yes.
For grip.
Glue it. Make sure we don't drop any inside, and that should be our lot. So I'll take off the brackets. Get the bolt in the bottom.
I do like a bit of butchery.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's just got to be done.
Thing. Loads do.
Right, there we go. That's in. Right, there we go. They're both on.
Or are we just going to let that go off?
So I'm just going to sit that like that and let it go off.
Well, we drink tea. Well, coffee.
Coffee.
Good job.
But we'll be back in a bit. Right, so whilst the JB Weld goes off, I'm going to run you through quickly the wiring for the system. So we've obviously got the harness that is to keep all the original buttons and things working, which is here, and of course actually swap it from the Mitsubishi harness to the aftermarket harness, and that comes as it is. So that goes, I'll run it out. So we got that goes to the, imagine this is the car. I'll run it this way. This is the car. So we're going to plug that into the car, and as we may have mentioned earlier in the video, we've run a reversing camera up and through, and there's just a grommet underneath the bonnet there, through the firewall. Just run it through there into the dash. That's the only thing I've shown. Oh, we haven't shown because we did it quite a long time ago. But before it broke again. So we've got a harness to the car, and then this piece here. It took me a while to figure out what it was because the instructions don't show it anywhere, but that is a ground, and there's a plug that came off the original stereo which that actually slots into. So there's 3 connectors to the car,
and that actually is very important. The stereo won't come on without the ground. So then the harness for the car goes from here to our stereo. So the aftermarket stereo, sorry, let me untangle myself here. The aftermarket stereo's just got two connectors, which are generic for aftermarket stereos. I mean, my Abarth had one to this, so every stereo unit I've bought comes with these two connectors. Then we've got the CAN bus. So this gets its own separate little cable, and that goes into the CAN bus on the other side, because the other side is connected to the car. We have a plug here, which doesn't do anything. And then we've got a 3.5mm jack. Now, on our stereo, we actually don't, I'm not going to show you because I don't want to touch it with the glue, but we don't have any 3.5mm jacks or any RCA cables, nothing like that. We've got no inputs on the back of the stereo, so I was a bit confused. Then I dug deeper into the box and found all these extra connectors, but we only need one, luckily. So this one is labelled the rear camera, mute, not sure what that's for, and steering wheel controls. So the steering wheel controls we need, which luckily, since this is set up for pioneers, they know that it goes with the 3.5mm, which then plugs into there. And the camera will then go into this here. So that's that. We've got two connectors to the stereo, one to the camera, and three to the car. Almost forgot the ground. So let's go and put it in. Right, now in here, you can see that is our camera. That is for our Apple CarPlay. So that goes into the back of the stereo as well. And then I've just literally pushed it through there into the glove box, because we'll put our phone in the glove box, which we can then plug in our USB to our iPhone lead, Android lead, whatever you want to do Android or Apple CarPlay. That's in there. And then we've got our microphone, which is there. And then we've got our three plugs from the original harness. So we've got, that's the ground that I showed you, that pin just slots in. And then we've got the two connectors. So let's get those in now. Right, so it's a lot more extra wiring going in here, but it is worth it. So we'll pull up the connections here best we can. Alright, the GoPro just shut off as I was doing it. These GoPros overheat all the time, so I can only apologise if any of that cut off there. But what I was showing was the harness. Now I've stuffed it all away because I was filming with it on the tripod, and of course it all shut off. So what I was showing was that the ground goes into the original harness of the car. So we've got the white plugs are from the car and this black plug. Now it's covered in electrical tape because the ground plugs in, but if you pull it slightly hard it comes out. So I've taped it up so it doesn't come out. So that goes into that plug from the car. Then we've got the two other plugs from the car, and they go away. And of course we've got to hide all of this because the stereo has to sit here. And then coming up, I've plugged in the camera. That's the only one we can plug in until we get the stereo here. I've got the microphone. I've got the CAN bus for the steering controls. I've got the cable here for the Apple CarPlay. I've got the stereo harness, and of course the CAN bus and the rear camera plug into this stereo using this. So they both go into this one, which we will then put in to the stereo. So I'll join you back in a second when we've got the stereo here and all the glue's dried, and we can put it in.
Right, mate.
Okay, so I'm planning for this to be the last bit. So this, in theory, should be it. Now, on the fascia, you can see we've got these little bits. Now, in the car, only two of these are there. So I've taken them out, and we're going to put these on. Dash. And so now that's ready, we'll go and install the stereo, plug it in, check it all works, and then the last thing will be clip that bad boy around.
Well, we won't be moving the metal brackets.
No, you're right, we won't. So let's go in and do it.
Shall I bring camera?
Please.
Perfect.
Alright, so starting this, I'm going to plug in our camera and, camera and CAN bus plug goes into the back of the stereo through this little harnessy jobby. Click. Got the microphone, which goes in there. Little plug. And then...
Do you want me to hold anything?
No, we've got the USB, which is for the Apple CarPlay when you plug your phone in.
That goes in the back. And we've got the power as well, which goes in like so. Now, what we'll do is plonk him in like that. Get it lined up. We'll get the screws in just lightly, check it works. Oh, we've got life. Turn that off. Hear that? Speakers work. Bluetooth, Apple CarPlay, it's all on. So I suppose we'll just get a USB and check Apple CarPlay works, because sometimes there's a handbrake cable that you need to sort of short, you need to bypass it to get these features to work. So I'm going to go and check that that works before we do anything else. Right, so I'm going to get the USB in ready, plug that in, let's boot it up. Got my cable ready. Don't know those warning displays. Anyway.
Once would be enough, wouldn't
Yes,
it?
it would, yeah. Right, phone's in. We're on.
Everything play Death Guitar Pop.
Everything works, look. We're on. Screen's working. Happy days.
Nice.
And sound works. Looks.
Nice.
That looks like it's going to go on, doesn't it?
It does.
So, should we try and give it the push in?
Give it the push.
That's not sitting very nicely, is it? Hang on.
Oh, it's good. There's one little bit of plastic, but that's
Oh, it's in.
it's in and looks good.
Does.
I would say, before we go, how much better, particularly that bit.
The screen and everything.
I think
is
that
clearer.
bit, because like, if you can remember, was in there, but that has made it look so much more modern.
Oh, it has.
Ignoring that,
Yes.
just that.
It was a big enough upgrade. But the nice flat screen in there and everything looks really nice.
Does.
So-
You've done a good job, thank you.
Yep, we'll give it a final wipe over, and that's that.
One day I'll change all of my wicked ways, and happiness will start to make sense. Happiness will start to make